return and choose the dates that I want to book. And with NDC, I have a number of options. I can add the airline. I can also shop for up to 9 passengers, and we will launch with American Airlines with that capability. And I can also choose the cabin. So if there's a specific cabin I want to shop for. Within the advanced qualifiers, there are other options that we can add, such as the ability to exclude a fare source. So the default is to shop for all fare sources. And we can also choose to add a frequent flyer number into the shop as well. So for differentiated content, if the traveller has a frequent flyer, you can add it to the shop. In this example, I'm just going to shop for NDC. So once the details are complete, the user would shop airfare. And at this point, our Bargain Finder Max API is working to return us content specifically for NDC. And we'll see up to 200 itinerary options for the itinerary request. So on the left-hand side, you'll see details about the flights, so the outbound and inbound flights, including flight number and duration. And then on the right, you'll see up to 4 brand offers from the airline. So you'll see, because I shopped for the lowest, I've got economy fares back. So you'll see I've got main cabin and I've got mixed also cabins as well. When we click on the fare and open up the drawer, you'll notice that we get more details about that particular itinerary, including details like terminal information, flight duration. We also get a fare description, which when we open up the tile, you'll see there's details about that particular fare or brand. And we can check the information for each leg of the journey. Once we're happy, we'll click select offer. And at this point, we're now going to send a pricing request to the airline. And you'll see that we get an itinerary. We get details about the offer time limit and also the ticketing time limit. So this offer is applicable for 20 minutes. We get baggage information as well as fare information. And we also get a certain amount of rule information as well. There's also 4 tiles that we can open to view baggage information, details about any taxes, fees and charges. We can also view a seat map. And again, we can go to the fare description and read details about the fare information or the brand information. So once we're happy, we can go ahead and create the order. And at this point, you'll see that the order create form has some details already populated. So I just need to add a couple of more details here to enable me to complete the order. You don't have to have details pre-populated. You can add them from the beginning into this form. Or if you've missed details such as email address or phone, you can choose the option from the top of the screen and actually add the details at this point. So now I'm going to create the order. And that will then give me a message returned back from the airline that it's been successfully created. And I'll also receive an airline order ID. You can also see that I get a ticketing time limit. And if we go to the trip summary on the right, you can see also the airline segment details. So now let's go and get a Sabre record locator. We're going to end and retrieve this order to create and add it to a PNR. I've now got my Sabre record locator. And in the graphical PNR view, you can see details about the flights. The itinerary tab shows me information about the air itinerary. And under the quote section is where we'll see details about the offer. And this is where traditionally the PQ would sit. So now you can see we've got ticketing time limit. And if we open the drawer, this is where we would go to actually book seats. So we're going to open the seat map and add some seats to the order. So the seat map view that you will see is the same as what we returned today for ATPCO content. You'll see on the left-hand side of the screen that you get a seat legend, which gives you details about the different seats that are available and what the different icons mean. You can also see each leg of the journey at the top of the screen. So to actually book, we just simply hover over the seat that we want and we click on it, and then we move through each leg of the journey and add the seats. In this example, I'm going to book free seats, but we can book paid seats as well and fulfill them at the same time as we do for the air. So once the seats have been chosen, these are what we call new order items. So these will be added to the air order. And now my seats have been successfully saved. We can go back to the PNR and have a look at the information about the seats. The offer and the order has been updated now. You can see there I've got 4 new order items for each seat. It's showing, each seat is shown as ticketed in this example because they're free seats. So now that we've got the seats and we've got our air, we need to fulfill. So to fulfill, the user would navigate towards the workflows that are built into Sabre Red 360, and there are a number of them that are dedicated to NDC. The fulfill order workflows where we go to actually fulfill the order. So we'll choose the order and then we'll choose our form of payment. I have the option to choose the credit card, which has come from the PNR session, or I can choose the cash form of payment. In this case, that's what we'll use. So once it's fulfilled and it's successful, we'll get a fulfill message giving us the information about the ticket number. And then if we go back to the graphical PNR, you can see the ticket information sits under the ticketing section. And if we open up the drawer, you can see different information about the coupon and the coupon status. And if we go back to the classic view of the PNR, you can see that the PNR contains what look like traditional air segments, but they are NDC segments. You can see the ticketing time limit has been updated, and I also have an accounting line added to the PNR. So to allow you to process this to the system's downline, we've tried to keep that as normal as possible. And we also have ticketed order information to the ticket section. So that's a simple shop, book and pay with seats. Let me now show you how you can service the PNR. So let's complete an exchange. So I've got an existing PNR that I'm going to bring up on the screen that's been previously fulfilled. So let's first of all go to the ticketing section and check that we can process an exchange. So we're going to check the coupon status, and you'll see here it shows as open. So we're good to go, we can do an exchange. So my traveller actually wants to just change the return. And again, to start the exchange, we go to the workflows and we choose the exchange shop workflow for NDC. We then go into update the ticket status to show which of the coupons we want to keep and what we want to change. So my traveller wants to come back a day later, so I'm just going to change the date. And at this point, we're just going to shop for a new airfare. So a lot easier than a traditional method of exchanging. We're actually just asking the airline to provide us new itineraries that we can change for our existing itinerary. At the same time, they'll also give us details about whether it's an additional collection, whether there are any penalties, or whether there's any residual amount. And then once we want to select, we simply open up the drawer and we select the offer. And then we get further details about that particular offer, such as offer time limit, ticketing time limit, and also fees and charges. Once you're happy with that, we just simply rebook the order. And then once it's rebooked, we then have to go ahead and fulfill. But before we do that, let's have a look at the details just so that you can see that the flight information has been updated. And let's go to our graphical PNR view. And you can see under the summary view in the home, you can see the new flights are now reflected. But just as with traditional content, we still have to fulfill this order in order to get our new ticket number. So again, we go back to the workflows and we choose the fulfill order. In this case, we'll choose cash form of payment and we simply fulfill. So exactly the same workflow as you have for fulfilling your ticket initially. We use the fulfill order workflow for any exchanges. Once that's complete, you can see we get a success message. And if we go back to the P&R and the ticketing section, you can see that my original ticket has now been updated to reflect that it's been exchanged. And my new ticket now reflects the new information for the new itinerary. And if we go to the classic view, again, my segment information has been updated to reflect the new dates. I have an accounting line for the exchange, and the ticketing section has also been updated with my new ticket details. So that concludes the short demo. Thank you for your time. For more detailed information or training courses, we do have a lot to offer, which will go into a lot more detail. And I know that Mark's going to cover that in the next couple of minutes. So I'll hand you back over to Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That's great. And so helping you get ready. So Sarah just laid some good context around how to consume NDC content through Sabre Red 360. And we covered a lot of ground with those demos. Now, we offer plenty of resources to help get NDC ready. So there's a Sabre NDC microsite. Encourage you to bookmark this. It enables you to stay up to date around the news from Sabre as it pertains to NDC. We have lots of NDC demo videos for both Sabre Red 360 and Get There. Our Sabre Dev Studio environment. So if you're a developer already, you'll know Sabre Dev Studio, but this is the place to access all of our API documentation and Postman collections and so on and so forth to help you get your product connected to our NDC offer and order APIs. And then Sabre Central, we have lots of free training that you can register for. All around NDC and Sabre Red 360. I really encourage you to do that. There's self-paced training and there's recorded training. Instructor-led training and self-paced training. Sign up, really make the most out of that free resource. We've got Finder to view any airline-specific information. And of course, Sabre Central is the place to open support tickets, just as you would with any other support query you have at Sabre. Sabre Central is no different for apologies for the glitch here. My team's decided to give in on me. Can someone at Sabre just give me a quick thumbs up or let me know verbally that you can hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Mark, and see you.
Thank you, Sarah. Apologies, I've been on this all day, and typically the glitch and the restart happened right at this critical moment. So apologies, everyone, for that. So when we go into the Sabre Central Marketplace, so this is where you're going to request access to NDC, whether that's via our APIs or Sabre Red 360. The ordering process
Mark,
for, yes.
Excuse me, we're not seeing your screen right now. Can you reshare it?
I would certainly do that.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Avery. So ordering information around American Airlines, we'll start closer to launch. We'll keep you posted and updated on all of that. And then, of course, to access any of the existing airlines we currently have live in Sabre, that can all be done via the Sabre Central Marketplace already. So emphasizing a couple of things you saw in the demos. So we are really designing NDC for operational efficiency from day one. That's our intent. We understand that keeping users operating efficiently and supporting mid and back offices are critical if we want to gain some traction in adoption. So whilst we are always measured on capabilities, really what we really focus on as well is trying to create an end-to-end experience that's uniform in nature across content sources and content types. So whilst we do introduce, and there is an introduction in some change, and we'll go into those a little bit in a second, when you go down that path of change, being able to consume content in a uniform way is really important, and making sure that the IUR is driven and the M records in the IUR are still whole and your back office systems are still able to process the data. That's an important piece that we focus on to make sure that whole end-to-end experience is there and available to our users. So I just want to talk a little bit about, aggregated, integrated, and normalized. So I don't know how much of this is necessarily known, but there is a lot of variance in regards to implementations out there. So we work across many NDC schema versions, and a schema version is a different version of a message type. So you may have different capabilities, may have different ways of sending the message. And so airlines are operating or base themselves on specific schema versions, and we obviously work to multiple of those depending on which airline is using which schema version. And within those schema versions, there can be variance as to how an airline has brought NDC to fruition, their interpretation of the schema. So the schema is a set of guidelines, but they're loosely interpreted by airlines as they try to achieve their retailing goals. And what that means to us is that actually NDC implementations are varying, and they're not rinse and repeat or plug and play. But our approach to our technical design is really geared towards integrating and normalizing multiple types of content, including traditional content, ATP co-edifact, low-cost carrier XML capabilities, and NDC offers across that diversity of implementation that I referenced. So we're looking to normalize that, and we do normalize that into a single set of workflows to really maintain a level of efficiency. So we expose out a uniform experience for our customers so that you don't have to go through those challenges or experience all that diversity that's out there in terms of implementation. What you see from Sabre is a common set of workflows and a uniform implementation. So our product development at Sabre is API first, meaning we consolidate and normalize these content across suppliers. We expose a uniform experience through our APIs, application programming interfaces. Apologies for using so many acronyms. And we expose them through APIs first. And so our APIs are available for our developer community at the same time as they're available for our internal products. So Sabre Red 360 tends to be customer zero to start consuming those capabilities we launch through our APIs, and obviously get there is then customer number one. But at the same time, we have our developer community can consume that product in parallel to us building out our own products. So what that results in is a reduced lag on the end-to-end across key constituents within the value chain. So preparing for change. So you may have sort of already recognized some of this in the demo. I just want to touch on these things a little bit more. So, adopting NDC will require your organization to evolve. So the emergence of NDC will prompt technical and process changes, as well as require, team members and users to actually change some behavior. Mentioned already that we expect traditional content and NDC offers to coexist for the foreseeable future. And as we see airlines leaning in on NDC retailing and distribution, we see then parallel methods of consuming an airline's content. So traditional and NTC, which is really an important consideration for our customers. So let's just dig into that a little bit more. So Sarah referenced this during the demo, the cryptic commands versus graphical user interface. So NDC actually introduces a new segment type within the Sabre PNR, and that does not communicate via the traditional EDIFACT protocols. So if you recall, we're transitioning from EDIFACT over to SOAP XML. And so really the interaction with an NDC order can only be accommodated via our order management APIs. So we talk about bringing our APIs, we're API led, our capabilities are exposed to our APIs. Those APIs interact with our order management system, which is the source of truth from a Sabre perspective around the order. So when we look at trying to use a cryptic command against an NDC segment within the PNR, so let's just call out XI as a really simple example. XI means cancel the whole itinerary. That ultimately would fail on the NDC segment because the order management APIs need to be used to manage that order. A message needs to be sent out to the airline in real time that says, I'm looking to cancel this order. Are there consequences of cancelling this order, et cetera, et cetera. And then the synchronization then has to go up and down through the airline's order management system, through our order management system, and then synchronize with the Sabre PNR. So it's a really important consideration when we look at like workflow processes and process management. These could be at the point of sale. Perhaps there's a managed workflow that's been built up over time with lots of complicated Sabre scribe scripts, or perhaps there's a Red app that's out there that's actually not interacting with our offer and order APIs. So these processes should really be reviewed for compatibility to sort of head off any disruptions to the operation upon launch. At least understanding how did these processes behave when they encounter an NDC segment, and what do I need to do from an immediate, short, midterm, maybe long-term perspective to overcome any initial compatibility challenges while those processes are refactored to consider how do they comply with an NDC environment. If we move down to schedule-led workflow, this would be probably the one that's driving the most heartburn, in all honesty, is that you're going from a schedule-led workflow to a shopping-led workflow. And we do not underestimate the level of the transition required to make this happen. Ultimately, NDC as a concept does not support schedule and inventory-led workflows. So if the working practice is availability, sell a class, price it, maybe price the lowest on that itinerary, or even other options, that workflow is not compatible with NDC. NDC is all about offers and orders. So the shopping mechanism is the only path to consume NDC, because really that's only the supported path the industry supports. So in that concept and that construct, the shopping path, as Sarah showed in the demo as well, is you put in your shopping conditions. It will hit Sabre traditional NDC content, and so the offers come back from the airline based on the conditions you put in your shop, and that will include traditional content and NDC content. Now we have some tie logic in place that when you place your order at Sabre, you make a decision to say, if I get exactly the same offer, it's same conditions, everything, I don't necessarily want to busy the screen up with lots of the same. So I want to pick a channel, and is it going to be I'm going to lean towards NDC, or I'm going to lean towards the traditional channel if there's an exact tie in the fare conditions and the price. So what that leads us to as well with this shopping-led and schedule-led workflow is that the airlines are introducing multiple ways to consume content, and so but what we're seeing is a desire to make certain content exclusive to one channel, which is NDC, but both paths will coexist. So the inventory will still be in the system. You will still be able to do an availability, sell a seat, price, but you're not necessarily going to get exposed to all the fares that could be available on that option and on that itinerary, because some of the fares are now going to be exclusive to the NDC path. So really, to get full visibility to all the content that's on offer from an NDC enabled airline, the transition needs to be made from the schedule-led workflow over to the shopping-led workflow. And so again, don't want to sort of downplay that work, because I appreciate how much is involved in that from a change management and a learning perspective. You could have all the best intentions in the world to say we're going to be consuming 100% of this content via the NDC path, but if the workforce hasn't made that transition and doesn't understand that I need to go shopping led because that's where I'm going to get access to all the fares for a particular airline, then your adoption may not be quite what you might expect it to be. So it's a really, really important consideration. And again, the training resources that we have available will help sort of enable that transition for end users. If we look at P&Rs versus orders, look, there's some constructs that exist today, such as PQ records and FP lines that aren't applicable with an NDC in an NDC world. So the airline is effectively creating the offer and fulfilling the order, and as such, the P&R may not contain components that are the same as traditionally sourced content. So, for example, automation tools that may be interrogating the P&R, and they may have some prerequisites to check for certain things because they've always been there. And one example, an easy example, is fulfillment and ticketing. And maybe my ticketing robotic, the first thing it's going to do is say, do I have a PQ record? If I do have a PQ record, I might understand how it was priced, and then I might want to reprice that prior to fulfillment. And so that workflow is not compatible in an NDC world. There is no PQ record, and if to issue the ticket, going back to the commands situation, a W cross doesn't issue the ticket. It's order management API call that issues the ticket. And again, Sabre Red 360 has all that built out into their workflow processes. If we go to published fares and real-time offers, with NDC, we no longer are going to have foresight necessarily into the fare filings, and because we will no longer construct the fare/offer, and so all offers are really created by the airline directly in real time. So in that respect, the notion of kind of repricing to obtain a lower fare or to benchmark, or maybe there are principles such as, you know, lowest logical fare, that really needs some consideration when it pertains to the NDC environment, because it's still, do those concepts still apply? Because the airline is going to offer you the offer in that moment in time, and I'm sure they will offer the lowest, but you can't force a pricing instruction for the NDC path. You can't force the, you know, will you price, no restrictions, blah blah blah, and get that, you know, whatever the definition of lowest logical fare is for you or for your customers. That process doesn't occur at pricing. So reviewing that and putting some thought around that is an important